Hello po. Welcome to another build video, but this time with narration and some explanation. I'm just going to warn you that I'm going to say a lot because I'm really not comfortable doing this yet. So let me know if you prefer this over the previous formats that I've been doing. So this build is for the Netherworld shotgun fast gunner build. uh, it has 50% chance to trigger fast gunner, and when you trigger fast gunner 2 times, it shoots an additional time basically, but it will also consume an additional 1 ammo. So after reloading, when the magazine is empty, the first 12 bullets will have attack plus 20. So the 12 bullets that this talks about includes the one additional bullet and fire an additional 5 projectiles. We're not really going to build around that bonus. It's just nice to have when you have it. So we are going to pair this with the Oasis Mask, Fast Gunner Max stacks plus 10, and attack plus 1% per stack. So the build costs 10k star chrome, 8k for the mask, and 2k for the shotgun itself. And when you buy the shotgun, you can use the blueprint conversion and just convert to a higher star uh, shotgun or a higher star purple weapon that you have. So Dual Fury has been like given away by the devs a lot from the mail, the events. So I think it's very easy to 5-star that and then just transfer over those stars to this shotgun. Well, my shotgun is just 4 stars because I made this before the system came out. And this is my out, if you noticed. So this character won't have the good mods that I have in my other character. Because that character's in the winter scenario and I'm planning to make additional content there. So this shotgun can be built weak spot or crit. So let's talk about the calibrations first. I've tried the fire rate shotgun, and on paper, it deals less damage than the heavy style. But and it does in practice as well, but it does a lot of burst. So if you like front load just 5 bullets or 10 bullets or one magazine, fire rate might be better for something like PvP or low HP targets. But for something like Prime Wars, you will be caught reloading a lot if you use the fire rate. So I think this is well balanced. I think fire rate can work with Prime Wars if those bosses like melts in your server, like 2 seconds is gone, then fire rate is better than like heavy. So for this, we're trying to balance out weak spot and weapon damage. If you noticed, I'm using a 3-piece raid. It gives 20% weapon damage when you have 80 load, over 80 load. So the 80 is not 80%, it's just the 80 number. So for this, I have like 124 over 200, that's 64%. And the bonus still applies. So if you see, I have 75% weapon damage. If I remove that and I refresh my gear page, the weapon damage is gone. So I would like to keep it. So for the mods, I'm using Shooting Blitz, Fast Gunner Duration plus 4%. It helps us keep our stacks up even when you reload. When Fast Gunner is active, you get weapon damage plus 15%. So I prefer this weapon damage plus 15% over the other one, which gives us weak spot damage, because you already have a lot of weak spot damage from the build itself because of the cradle. So you want a lot of weapon damage. For the helm, we're using Precise Strike, another source of weak spot damage. For the mask, we're using Fast Gunner Blitzkrieg. Fast Gunner plus 5 stacks, and Fire Rate plus 1% per stack. So along with the Oasis mask, Fast Gunner now stacks up to 20, which gives us an additional 20% attack and 20% attack speed, in addition to the 1% fire rate and 1% attack. So we're basically getting double of this bonus. We're getting 40% attack speed and 40% attack. So for the gloves, we're using weak spot damage plus 25, weak spot damage boost. For the pants, we're using bullet siphon, weapon damage plus 5. There isn't really much options here, but you can also go for something like this, weak spot damage boost, if you have good substats like this one. If you have blue, both weak spot and damage to great ones, that's good. Or munitions amplifier that have weak spot and damage against great ones. If you don't have those, just get a bullet siphon. So having a low magazine also for the fire rate, the rapid calibration, hurts this mod. So you're getting more bonus out of this as well. For your boots, is either covered advance or slow and steady. So that choice for me actually depends on the substats of the boots. So if you have like good substats like this one, for example, crit damage, or for the crit, this is for the crit one. Crit damage, damage against raised ones, and weapon damage. This is better than, for example, this one. Even if you prefer slow and steady. So that's how I choose between the two. So did I leave anything else? For the cradle, I am in a fast gunner and Fortress Warfare's server, but this fast pursuit thing doesn't really proc in Prime Wars, because you really don't have targets to kill usually in Prime Wars, because the shield breaks so fast that enemies don't spawn. So you want the handgun enhancement for pistol and shotgun bonus 20%. Master Tactician and Deviation Master is important for the 50% total damage bonus, which will be added with your damage to great ones substat. Tactical combo, you can proc this when the shield breaks and you swap weapons. And steady hand. Steady hand is very easy to proc because you have 40% weak spot with fast gunner, and what you want is like 100% uptime of your fast gunner anyway, and an additional of 20% weak spot damage to the bullseye. So from this alone, you already have like 60% weak spot damage, and the gun has 50%. So you have 75% base weak spot damage, which is already a lot. And we're gonna stack it even more with the helm mod. So for the crit version, let's shoot the dummy. The dummy is not really indicative of your actual DPS because this has a 15.275 damage reduction on it. This dummy. So a lot of the DPS you'll get here is fake. For example, you can, like, there's a lot of things that can amplify this, like having damage versus normal enemies. So for example, I have like 26% damage versus common. So that's very high. So that will impact the damage that I'll do with the training dummy versus the boss. But you also, for example, this build is around like the Deviation Master and Master Tactician, which gives 50% more damage versus Great Ones for bosses, and the additional substats that we're looking for. Right now I have like 10. So that's 60 total. And I'm focusing more on base damage instead of fire rate. So throwing the knife, I get the bonus, and then summoning the deviation. So I think I'll be getting really low amounts, like just if you compare it for something like the fire rate calibration, you will get higher numbers. But in practice, it drops once you reload, and you'll be reloading a lot of most of the time there. So anyway, wait, I was using tungsten AP ammo. Anyway, that's it for the weak spot. We're going for the crit version now. For the secondary, is either wildfire or a second set of Netherworld shotgun. Since I already have this for testing, I usually use them both for Prime Wars because it's really hard to keep up the stacks if I use the main and then reload. For example, I can use this main to stack up the fast gunner stacks on the shield, then reload, then the wildfire. For example, the shield is down, I want to reload before the shield is down, then proc, then swap. A lot of the times, the stack drops, but this is the ideal way to do it because the wildfire gives you a 25% weapon damage bonus for 10 seconds when hitting an enemy with bullseye that doesn't have any enemy to spread the bullseye to. So the Prime War is a very good example in this because the shield usually dies even before the ad spawn. So if you look at the diamond on the middle bottom of my screen, that's the 25% weapon damage buff. This one. So the attack buff that you get from this, the one with the 3, doesn't stay if you swap weapons. So it doesn't matter if you hit weak spots or not. So you want to keep this and then swap to this while also keeping your fast gunner stacks. But with the lag, it's very hard to do that. So I like to play safe and just use this with another shooting blitz mod that I don't use. So I'll use the secondary weapon to stack up my fast gunner stacks. Then I could swap to my main weapon when the shield is down. So for the crit version, we're using 2 pieces of Lone Wolf and 3 pieces of Falcon, because we're prioritizing the crit rate over the extra crit damage that you get from the Lone Wolf set. This 3-piece and 4-piece Lone Wolf, the crit rate from the 4-piece Lone Wolf only lasts for 2 seconds, and you don't really reload much on this weapon, and it takes a long time to reload. So reload again. So that 2 seconds is just like for 4 shots or 5 shots, depending on your fast gunner stacks. While the 5% crit rate, you always get from Falcon. And the 3-piece Lone Wolf doesn't really stack on the shield because you don't crit on the shield for Prime Wars. And even if you crit multiple times, if you look at the bottom part of the screen beside the health bar, even if I crit a lot up there, Lone Wolf only stacks once. So once per shot. So you need to crit, and it doesn't crit. For example, I crit and sometimes it doesn't stack. So I think it's counting the first bullet that comes out of this shotgun. And if that crits, then it will stack the Lone Wolf set. I think that's how it works. So I prefer having the 3-piece Falcon over that. So for this, we will have like slightly lower than usual, 49% crit rate. I have slightly middle of the pack stats of calibration. That's just 14%. Could be better, but yes, just 49% crit rate. And we don't have a lot of sources of crit rate right now, unless you have a party member that has Frost Vortex weapon, or if Frost Vortex is very popular on your server, you can use Honey Glazed Meat. This works even if the Frost Vortex is not yours, so you can get an additional 15% from this one. So anyway, back to the build. We're using Momentum Up for the helm. For the weapon, we're using the same mod, Shooting Blitz. We are not using Fateful Strike because weak spot damage also increases our damage by a lot. So we get those from the cradle buffs, the 60% and the innate weapon weak spot damage of 15% from the Netherworld. If you use Fateful Strike, all of those gets dropped to 0. So this is not worth, in my opinion, for any build. I think unless it's specifically very hard to hit a weak spot, or there is no weak spot in your target, like the claw machine or the weather elite. Hmm. So for the mask mod, we're using the same Blitzkrieg. For the gloves, we're using crit boost. We want crit rate instead of crit amplifier. We prefer the crit rate. For the shoes, it's either covered advance or slow and steady, like before. For the chest, you can use crit damage enhancement, also gives 2% crit rate. And for the substats, you prefer crit damage, then crit damage with damage to great ones or weapon damage. You prefer damage versus great ones more over weapon damage, but they generally have the same value. So get either one. I think for all around, you would want weapon damage more for all around content. But for like something like Prime Wars, primarily you want to stack a lot of damage versus great ones because you only have a 50% source from that. Versus, for example, weapon damage, you get a lot from the bonuses and the mods. It goes up to like 100 plus. So along with this, the pants mod, we're using dead shot. And wait, did I forget anything else? Okay. So this is the creep version of the build versus the Shadowhound Prime War. So I'm still using the wildfire here, as you can see. And I'm not doing the change ammo trick for the Netherworld here to have the attack bonus for the empty reload when I switch. So I just reloaded there for fun, I guess. So as you can see, it's hard to hit the weak spot, especially like here when he goes through the terrain, which happens a lot. That's why I just went really close. And as you can see, I just stacked about 16 stacks for the fast gunner. Not really a lot. But if you stack it to 20, it gives a lot of damage. So this, I was just... How much did I do? Just 2 million. So for the weak spot version, so at least in the weak spot version, I was using the shotgun, but they were recorded I think that's why I switched, because the shield was dying too fast to stack up the fast gunner. So as you can see, it's really hard to hit the weak spots. So again, okay. So there, even if I hard have a hard time, I guess, hitting the weak spot, I think the double shotgun still deals more burst because of the higher attack, of the higher damage attack multiplier gives you. I think that will be my next video, the damage formula of once human. And that's it. I hope you like this format. Let me know and see you next time.